opportunity to speak with all of you today. As I was looking outside today, I think we can maybe proclaim that spring is finally here. Every year, it always seems like it takes a long time for spring to come. And although it seems like Mother Nature changes its mind once in a while. And these are photos of the cherry trees in Como Park on the left and the view of Normandale Japanese Garden on the right. And this is, I think, within the last week or so, pictures from these places. So things are definitely blooming. And just, I know many of you know this, but some of you don't know that Gail and Gail's parents, especially Gail's father, was very instrumental in the starting of the Normandale Japanese Garden on the picture on the right, as well as one of our former Sangha members, Sam Honda. There may be others that I'm forgetting, I apologize. But historically, they had a significant imprint on the establishment of that. But I also wanted to show you these photos. These are from 1960, and I may have shared these in the past, but this is 1960, and it's the planting of 50 cherry trees in the Lyndale Gardens, which is next to Lake Harriet. So the Lyndale Gardens are still there. It's a large area, but it also includes like the Rose Garden. I think there's the Peace Garden there. You may be familiar with that part of Lake Harriet. And this is, the picture on the left is a picture of my brother Frank, cousin Brian, and our grandmother. And before she immigrated to the US, she was a teacher in Japan. And so this was after the war. So her former students were much older at that point. And they had organized and really wanted to pay tribute to her as their teacher when they were very young. So what they did was they organized, and through many hoops they had to jump through environmentally, through the state, the city. They sent these 50 cherry trees, and they were planted in the Lyndale Gardens. And there was a commemorative plaque there, but it was eventually vandalized beyond recognition, so it was removed. And unfortunately, today there aren't any of those cherry trees still alive, so they weren't able to withstand the harsh Minnesota winters. So, I enjoy this time of year. There's a noticeable trend in the spring where there's more daylight, the temperature is warming up, the flowers and trees are sprouting and seemingly gaining new life. So even the term spring, it gives a sense of rejuvenation, and the term speaks for itself in how we think of the season. So this is one way to look at the season, but really this is our projection of our human existence on nature. We tend to think the sprouting leaves and flowers as birth and renewal, and their change of color in the fall as the end of their life. Well, there's two Japanese poems I want to share with you that maybe gives us a little different perspective. The first is, they are falling here and there. They are fresh falling leaves just born from a tree. And the second is, it's beautiful. Flowers of falling leaves are blooming all over. So these poems express a different perspective, that instead of thinking of falling leaves as the end of their lives, they're considered as being born as a new life, or like a rejuvenation. So I'd like to read a passage from the Hymns of the Dharma Ages, which was written by Shinran Shonin. So please join me in Gassho. Although I am without shame and self-reproach, and lack a mind of truth and sincerity, because the name is directed by Amida, its virtues fill the 10 quarters, embracing me completely and bringing me to the other shore. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. So Buddhism teaches us that our views are not absolute and clear. So it's depending on how we interpret what we see, we can come to see things differently through deep reflection. And Amida Buddha, as a symbol of infinite wisdom unfolding as compassion, tries to awaken us and broaden our view with a more clear and flexible mind. So we project ourselves on nature, what is natural in life, and we human beings find it difficult to align ourselves often with how things truly are. So, we often use the phrase, come as you are. And I know Cheryl uses it regularly in the service notices to invite people to attend. And in fact, where I've been spending a lot of time lately, which is at the Midwest Buddhist Temple in Chicago, there's this big sign that I'm showing you here on the slide. This is at the entrance, and it says this. So I've gone through that door many times, and I've seen this sign many times, and I've heard Cheryl say this many times. Of course, I always listen very intently to her. But on a recent trip or visit to Midwest Buddhist Temple, I paused to truly read it and to think about what it might mean. And I think the reason I paused was because I've been thinking about the recent laws promoting oppression and exclusion in our society, especially against marginalized communities like the recent anti-LGBTQ plus laws in Florida and Texas. At first thought, the sign seems to say that the temple accepts anyone who enters. And we often jokingly say it when we're not looking our best and we turn on our videos sort of reluctantly. But there's no judgment of who or where you're from, your beliefs, your age, class, race, sexual identity, gender, or any other basis. There's no exclusivity in Jodo Shinshu. And this is an extremely important message to welcome all those who want to hear the Buddha Dharma and experience the teaching of non-discrimination of Shinran Shonin. It's a teaching available to all. So Amida Buddha is said to have the wisdom of non-discrimination. And this is manifested in the great compassion that embraces all beings. And although it is difficult for us as unenlightened beings to truly manifest this wisdom of non-discrimination, this radical equality is a very important ideal in our tradition. But I think the message, come as you are, means more than that. And Buddhism speaks about emptiness, which is usually interpreted to mean without intrinsic existence. It does not mean things don't actually exist. Of course they do, but things arise due to causes and conditions, so are considered empty. But emptiness cannot mean things just as they are, or the Japanese word sonomama. And sonomama, as you are, can also be understood as pertaining respectively to the naturalness of karma. And this naturalness is the call of Amida. So sonomama is Amida's voice, and trust yourself just as you are. And it's a message of unconditional love addressed to us from Amida Buddha. So sonomama is my embrace of the reality of my life, whatever my conditions. It's the deep inner peace and gratitude which arises from realizing my own oneness with all beings. It is to take refuge, to entrust in what is true and real. So it comes naturally and spontaneously as we open ourselves to the working of great compassion, letting it shape and inform our lives the way it is meant to be. There's a popular Shin poem, and this is a translation by Reverend Dr. Taitetsu Uno. And I know we've used it in past services as one of our readings. So if I can just take a moment to read this. You, as you are, you're just right. Your face, body, name, surname, for you, they are just right. Whether poor or rich, your parents, your children, your daughter-in-law, your grandchildren, they are all for you just right. Happiness, unhappiness, joy, and even sorrow, for you, they are just right. The life that you have tread is neither good nor bad. For you, it is just right. Whether you go to hell or to the Pure Land, wherever you go is just right. Nothing to boast about, nothing to feel bad about, nothing above, nothing below. Even the day and month that you die, even they are just right. Life in which you walk together with Amida, there's no way that it can't be just right. When you receive your life as just right, then a deep and profound trust begins to open up. So we recognize that how we each are naturally is unique to us. And this is sonomama, and this is suchness, or as it is, and Connie even referred to it in her guided meditation earlier. And suchness is a term for true reality, things just as they are in themselves, not as they're perceived with our discriminating minds or self-centered distinctions and values. And this view of true reality is from the perspective of Amida Buddha. This is another famous poem, and it's by a Buddhist monk, Ryokan, and it's about the maple leaf. Showing front, showing back, the falling maple leaf. So this poem, I think, reminds us that we do not have to just show our front side. We don't have to be free of what we think is our backside. Amida Buddha's all-embracing compassion does not require us to just show what we think is our good side. Amida Buddha accepts us as we are. So I think that come as you are is saying that we can each come with differences that are naturally occurring for each of us. It's a message not only of how we should think of others, but how we should think of ourselves. So what does come as you are not mean? It does not mean accepting inequities in life that systems allow because that's the way it is. It's not accepting inhumane mistreatment of others. That's the way it is not really recognized in Buddhism because everything is constantly changing. Nothing has an everlasting existence. And it's about the truth of reality, not the truth that humans instill based on their discriminative thinking, because that is a human construct. Sono mama is never a way of excusing my own laziness and lack of courage to stand up to the wrongs in this world. So what the sign also does not say is come as I am. Using that phrase, as I am, is really my calculating mind at work. Maybe it's just semantics, but I think it's an important distinction. So the phrase come as you are also is a message coming from a source speaking specifically to each one of us. You know, on the sign of the MBT temple, it's attributed to Reverend Ron. And, you know, Reverend Ron, who just spoke last service and is the minister of Midwest Buddhist Temple. It's an important welcoming aspiration, really giving the statement a form. But I think it's important to know that this is coming from Amida Buddha, ultimate reality, and is speaking to each of us personally. So Jodo Shinshu is about finding who you truly are. So this calling from Amida is for us to break through our discriminating mind towards nature, towards others, but especially towards ourselves, to find who we truly are. There's an article in the Tricycle magazine about a Jodo Shu priest from Japan, Kodo Nishimura, who comes from a temple family in Japan and is also a famous makeup artist and LGBTQ activist. And he was listed as one of Time Magazine's Next Generation Leaders in 2021. So he has a memoir that's out that's titled This Monk Wears Heels, Be Who You Are. And the article was in Tricycle because an English translation was just made available this past February. So he's also been featured in the series Queer Eye when they were in Japan. So if you have a chance, it's available on Netflix. In the Tricycle interview, he expressed his difficult path to self-acceptance to reconcile his authentic self with the pressures of Japanese society. And he said, central to his work is the belief in Buddhism that anybody and everybody can be equally liberated. So relative to the Buddhist teachings, he also said he's really hesitant to speak only about LGBTQ issues because Buddhism really is for everybody. So what we learn from someone like Kodo Nishimura is that our own minds are often our biggest obstacle to allow our authentic self to emerge. We often act out of fear of what others will think and what we think are their expectations. So as we reflect during this time of year, it reminds us to come as you are, that naturalness is often blinded by our egos or our discriminating minds. Now we say Namo Amida Butsu as an expression of our gratitude to Amida Buddha for awakening us to boundless wisdom unfolding as compassion. So we can put into action the compassion which comes to us from Amida Buddha and apply it in our relationships with our fellow living beings and ourselves. This appreciation in our daily life is the Shinshu way of expressing our gratitude for the wondrous virtues extended to us unconditionally and equally. So please join me at Gasho as I read once again this passage in closing from the Hymns of the Dharma Ages by Shinran Shonin. Although I am without shame and self-reproach and lack a mind of truth and sincerity, because the name is directed by Amida, its virtues fill the 10 quarters, embracing me completely and bringing me to the other shore. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you very much.